Wavelengths present a conversation with everyday people doing extraordinary things, making the world a better place. Meet Jonté Bouchard, Frequency Activator. One of the 3 founding members of the Wavelengths, Jonté is a certified Usui Reiki master and teacher, a Lightarian Reiki master, an integrated energy therapy practitioner, level 2, acquiring her level 1 certification in sacred soul alignment, bringing sound healing into her sessions through the use of vocal toning and by playing crystal singing bowls, and more. We hope you enjoy our conversation with Jonté.
Hello, I'm Jonté.
Hi, I'm Sandy.
And hi, I'm Sarah. We are the Wavelengths.
Thank y'all for being here today. And today we're going to be interviewing one of our own Wavelengths person, Jonté Bouchard. And she's going to tell us a little bit about who she is and what she does and share her journey. So, Jonté, if you'd like to start and tell us what it is that you do, we'll get started.
Great. So I am a frequency activator.
Well, that sounds very interesting. What exactly is a frequency activator?
Well, I blend many different modalities, forms of energy work, such as Reiki, crystal readings, consulting, intuitive readings. And through these different techniques, I clear, activate, and transmute energy patterns and frequencies with people.
That sounds so interesting. So would you like to share a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, so my journey thus far has been very interesting with many plot twists. So for my whole life, I've always known that the work that I would be doing professionally would be unconventional and that I would not do any type of work that I did not absolutely love with every fiber of my being. And I was always very vocal and passionate about this. And so in school growing up, the subjects that I enjoyed most were English and reading because I could feel the characters in the books. And I've always been an avid reader of fiction. And so I could really connect with the worlds and the different voices. And it was just one way of feeling energy patterns through. I've always been able to feel people around me and their energies, but it also came through in the writings. And so I thought that that would be a really interesting career path for me. But then I kind of lost interest in that when I started learning French, which just came very naturally to me. I was able to pick up languages easily, accents. It just felt like a remembrance once I started learning. And so around the same time that I was taking French, I consciously discovered energy work. And this was not a coincidence that they were both around the same time. But my mom took a Psych K class one weekend and she came back absolutely beaming. And she was like, Jonté, I met this woman and she does this energy clearing and I've booked a session for us for next week to go and for you to experience it. And it sounded like therapy to me. And I was like, what? I don't need this. And I have a French test the same day that you booked the session. So I don't want to go, but she convinced me. And so once I walked in to that center and smelled the essential oils and heard the binaural beats, I felt like, okay, well, this is kind of interesting, but I was still a little bit wary. And I said to the woman, I said, now, I don't want you to read my mind, so I'm going to block you if you try. And she and she immediately started laughing. I think she said something like, oh, well, I could read your mind, but I'm not going to. And so it just immediately put me at ease. And I felt like there was this glow around me. And she started doing what I know now is EFT tapping and she would tell me insightful things about my life at different ages. And I was like, how does she know all of this? How can she can feel? And so I just felt like my whole energy around it changed. And I'm like, when can we go back? And so my family made it a 6-month thing for about the next year or so um until her center closed. And but I always kept the tools that she taught with me through high school and college, muscle testing and intuition strengthening. And so even though I kind of went back into the 3D a little bit, that was always still at the core foundational level of my being. And so I, through college, and I majored in French and minored in psychology because, as I mentioned before, I was passionate about language and the intricacies of people and behavior. And I thought I'd find a way to blend those together. So I pursued a master's degree in French linguistics in Paris. And so that's another place where I had many mystical experiences. I felt a familiarity with the region as if I had lived there before in other lifetimes. My sense of place and feeling the energy of a place was activated, and so I was able to like go into a room and just feel the um like I could sense the history and the different energy patterns in the room, and so that was fascinating.
So you were saying that you feel the energy of rooms?
Yeah, I can feel the energy of rooms and objects within the room. So I had a friend at the time, and she was living in an apartment that had all of this old family furniture that she had inherited. And I mean, she had a suitcase full of coins that her grandmother had collected, and there was all of this furniture. And because I was sensitive to people and their energy patterns, and since she knew that, she thought, well, what if Jonté could help me clear out some of my furniture? And I thought, well, I can certainly give it a try and see what I get. And so I was able to feel the presence of some the history, and even a spirit in one piece of furniture. And I wasn't sure at the time because I didn't have as much knowledge about these techniques or self-confidence, and so I thought, well, I could just be making all this up, but I think that there is a very stubborn spirit in your dresser that feels very angry, and really we need to try to send some calm, clarity, and peace to get him out. And then a similar situation happened. Another friend who lived out in the countryside, in a stable that had been converted into a home. So it had a lot of energy, like 4 centuries worth of energy to be cleared. And I vividly felt um, some spirits, and I got information on their stories and how they came to be stuck in this home. And actually, when I did what I created, what came through, I wasn't sure if it was a modality but I talked with this spirit, and she noticed a peacefulness in her house the next day. And I thought, okay, well, if this works, then that's really interesting. And I had heard of Reiki, and because a friend a few years previously had told me about it, and because what I had learned in the Psych K course about muscle testing and intuition was always in the back of my mind, those dots, they were like braille dots, just reconnected in my mind. And I thought, I want to learn more about Reiki. But I was doing a psychology program at the time, and so I just kind of put that in in the back of my mind because I
So
was studying.
I want to stop here for a moment because I do have a few questions just for my own, because I've not experienced this. So you, in these two locations at your friends' um, abodes, their homes,
Mhm.
um, actually, you felt energies, but you also actually felt the presence of, I would call them a non-corporeal being. Some people might call them ghosts.
Yes, they were non-corporeal beings.
So not just an energy signature, but an actual being.
Yes, I felt both.
You felt, oh, so you had both experiences and you cleared them by talking with them?
Yeah, well, with the non-corporeal being, I cleared by talking with them and by sending, like, I did the same thing when friends or family would feel tense and or depressed or anxious, or just if I picked up on their nuances that felt imbalanced, and I would soothe and talk and or bring joy or whatever. So I use that same technique with the non-corporeal beings. And
So you had already been using energy techniques when relating with people you cared about.
I have the, but as I said before, I wasn't consciously aware that I was using energy techniques. It
That's
just came, it was just a part of my essence. It just
pretty cool, Jonté.
it
I just think that's pretty cool. Now, the
well,
other thing that my ears picked up on, because, you know, had a stint as a special education teacher, not that I like that term. Um, you said that in doing this for your friends, that like Braille dots, they started coming together. So why that reference?
oh, did I forget to tell y'all that I'm blind?
Yeah, you never mentioned that.
Really? Oh wow. Okay, well, so it's just such a natural part of who I am. I have been blind since birth. I have a beautiful, rare genetic eye condition that results in total blindness. It's a scarring of the retina. It's called Leber's congenital amaurosis. And so I love that word. And I love my blindness because, well, I do have light perception. So I can see different, it's almost like shapes of light in a way. It's dimness, brightness. I can tell the difference between natural light and artificial light. We are all light, but you know what I'm trying to say. And so it's a gift. It's really, I chose this life path. And if anyone offered a modification of this genetic condition, I would say, nope, not for me.
So, as a special ed teacher, once upon a time, I noticed, and there's research on this, that when we lose one of, well, they've only done research on the 5 senses, right? When we lose the ability, in this case, having a physical visual field, in a sense, that the other ones are more enhanced. I'm sorry. And I also believe that there's many types of vision, that physical level light coming into the cornea or whatever part of the eye. I don't know all the eye stuff, and bouncing off and conducting signals to the brain. That's only one type of being able to see.
Oh, I would agree.
So do you think this has enhanced your ability to see in other ways and to sense in other ways?
Absolutely. And I think that part of my that's what makes my work that I do unique, because I can perceive in other ways, more heightened ways, because I can tune in. I'm also have a little bit of audio tactile synesthesia. So when I hear a person's voice, I immediately associate it with a shape or textures, or sometimes different shapes and textures depending on their energy level and patterns at the time that I'm talking to them. But there's always usually one or two core shapes associated with the voice. And that helps me to tune into the patterns and to really know, like, if there's something blocking, or if there is, a frequency that is lacking in the voice that I can fill in through thought beaming it into their energy field.
That's pretty
And
cool.
it's pretty cool. It's a great, and that's one of the reasons why I love being blind, because I'm sure that there are sighted people who can do this kind of work, but it just makes it so much easier. It's smoother. And so where was I going with this? I don't have to hear a person's voice necessarily to be able to perceive their energy, but it does add more labyrinth of detail. And so, and the same is true for like if I were reading, let's just say in quotes, a person through your voice, I could pick up on their energy, because the sound waves in your voice connects to their energy field.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, all right,
And,
you were telling.
and so I was telling you, I got off on a little bit of a spirally detour, which is typical of me, which is one of the reasons I love that the Reiki. So I got into discovering Reiki when I came home for a funeral this was back in 2017. So I'd been living in France, doing a second bachelor's degree in psychology. And I came home to the States for my uncle's funeral. And I was there for 2 weeks. And one evening, I was looking for something to do in the town where I was staying. And so I got on meetup.com, and I was scrolling, and I found Violet Flame Reiki share at the Buddhist temple. And I thought, oh, that sounds intriguing. So I went there and experienced a full Reiki session, during which I belly laughed throughout most of it, as well as feeling a deep sense of peace. And it just felt like a homecoming. Like, it really connected. And so the following day, which happened to be Halloween, the lead practitioner, since I was only going to be there for a few more days before having to go back to Paris, she said, well, why don't I just offer you Reiki 1, and then you can go back and you'll be attuned. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And so that trajectory led me to pursuing a career in energy work. And since then, I've learned, become a Reiki master, as well as just certified in a few other modalities, and the crystals have always been an integral part of my work. So even though I'm not, I just channel information when I hold them and combine them. It just comes through me. It just feels very natural. I can't explain it.
Well, I want to go back a little to, you said you've learned other modalities besides Reiki. So did you continue on with the Reiki? You've got a level 1.
Oh yes, I got level 1, and then I completed. So I went back to Paris after my level 1, and I knew that it was like I had a soul contract with Paris and with some of the people that I had met there. And because I lived there for a total of 6 years off and on, I did do an 8-month stint on the West Coast when my brother moved, to help him and also to find a way to go back to France legally. I had to do that, but I knew that I didn't want to settle on the West Coast. So anyway, back to after I got the level 1 Reiki, it was just very clear that that's what it fell into place. I With the psychology, it really made sense to make my focus energy. And I knew that there were other modalities, so I knew that Reiki was just a gateway to that, and that it was all of these techniques are really a just different ways of expressing unconditional love. So
Right.
right.
So you got your level 1 attunement.
So I got my level 1, and then I moved back home and got my level 2 and level 3 and master level, and then I moved on to integrated energy therapy, as well as another different Reiki and Lightarian Reiki, and now I'm doing sacred soul alignment. And so it's just been, and I started my working with clients after I got my master certification, because that was just a natural progression to open my practice. And so I have it in my home, and so I'm always expanding, and as I deepen my own transformation and share the knowledge and wisdom with others, I inspire people to thrive through the strength of joy and unconditional love.
It sounds lovely. So what if I understand you correctly, you became a master level Reiki practitioner.
Yes.
You've also studied other energy modalities. Are you and you're still studying different modalities.
And I'll always be studying different modalities, because as we evolve the modalities, well, so this is a lifelong enthusiastic and commitment, dedication
To your own growth as well as helping others.
well, because it's a ripple effect.
Right. That's beautiful. So did you say you've learned other things besides energy techniques as well? Like
Well,
the crystals?
well, the crystals, that's part of energy techniques, but so when I was living on the West Coast with my brother, I discovered crystals. We went into a crystal shop one day, and I just immediately, I was feeling all of them. I was connecting, I was feeling their energetic properties, and I just knew that this was a portal to, I thought, well, how can I blend the crystals and the psychology? And because if I held, like, for example, a rose quartz and a piece of lepidolite, and I was feeling anxious, then that immediately calmed me down. Or if I was in a situation where I needed to activate my magnetism and held a piece of raw citrine in my right hand, it always helped me to speak in a strong voice. And so I really got creative with the crystal combinations and started playing around with it. And one of the things that I love to do is to create combinations for myself and others. And even though I do energy work, I could really see myself working part-time in a small, low-key crystal shop, just doing consultations for people. And that's something that I might end up doing one day.
Having known you and watch you, it is truly amazing how you can have a stone in your hand and you know exactly what it is and how it talks to you, what it's saying to you, and why it is for this client, because you've done it for me. So I know how wonderful that is to go, oh, this is a piece of hematite, and this is what it'll do for you, and this is why you need to connect with it, and how working with it is just truly fascinating. What kind of texture it has, and what message it's telling you. It's truly fascinating to watch you work. in that, especially in that way. It's just amazing. And how you can do grids for people to help them clear their blockages, and do a whole group of different kinds of stones for people. It's truly amazing.
Oh, thank you. It is absolutely one of my greatest passions and joys, and they do talk to me. They have a voice, and so yeah, inside each stone, oftentimes there is almost like a non-corporeal being, and they speak to me. They speak to each other too. It's really fascinating. So thank
Yeah,
you.
that's why doing a grid for somebody and doing something specific and having several different stones for them, so that they can work together to help clear whatever it is for your client is just it's amazing to watch, and the combinations that you can come up with, and how they really speak to you, and it truly, that vibration and that frequency can help that that person that you're working with.
It really does. And every time I do an energy session, I will always create a customized grid and place it under the table if it's an in-person session, and sometimes on the table around them. And they support the frequencies that I am activating or clearing, because when I clear the frequency patterns, I always replace it with another frequency that's complementary to the person, so that I'm not just clearing and then there's empty space. And so the crystals really help with sealing it all together. So yeah.
So cool. Sign me
Yeah.
up. I'm ready to sign up now.
You
And
can
Anyway.
and then I also know that you add sound to it as well with the with the bowls, and other
yeah,
instruments of sound for a whole different other kind of frequency that it changes. It helps change things. So doing exactly what you do is being a frequency activator, is with the vibrations of all the things that you work with.
oh
Can
absolutely.
really,
So the
And
goals.
sound, another part of it that I was and this is a great segue into that, because I have recently begun learning different types of sound healing therapy. I have crystal bowl, Tibetan bowl, and I always incorporate some element of sound into my sessions, as well as vocal toning through my voice. And sometimes that just sounds like a tone, a note, or even sometimes another language with the cadence. And um, sometimes it's guttural sound, sometimes it might sound like Gaelic or an Asian language, or it's just, think of it as the energy waves, the frequencies just flow through my voice. So it's kind of like Reiki through the voice. And so when I combine that with the stones and also the patterns that flow through my hands, and sometimes the bowls, it's like uh, a plethora of, it's like all of these weave together.
It sounds like a multi-dimensional experience.
It's a multi-dimensional experience, because we are multi-dimensional beings.
So you're what I heard you say is you're not only working with an individual through numerous modalities simultaneously, but you're also adding to that modalities that once the shift has occurred, replaces that empty space where the imbalance was with.
Yes, that's very important.
Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I've noticed the difference when I clear, because, well, first of all, I'd like to state that I work with all of these modalities, but depending on the person and what they are desiring to clear or transmute, I may only use one modality in a session. I may use two or three or all of that I work with. So it really just depends on the focus. And if I once I clear, if there's like a hook or a cord that is removed, there's like a hollow space, and sometimes it can feel quite cavernous, and it just feels like it needs to be filled with the true essence of that person's energy frequency, if that makes sense. So if I didn't fill it, then they'd be walking around with like little tears and holes in their aura, and then all of the cobwebby textures would come back, you know. So where was I?
So it's not a literal hole, like in a physical body, but it is kind of like an energetic emptiness.
It's like an energetic emptiness, and sometimes it's almost like if you have if you imagine a solid rectangle and then you cut out the center, so you have like this rectangle on the edges, but then in the center of it there's just an empty space, and then sometimes it might feel kind of jagged where you cut it out. That's what it would feel like if you didn't replace it.
Okay, so you replace their own, you fill it with
Their
their
own
own essence.
with their own essence. It's like they're because and another component to this is how receptive the person is to opening and receiving, because when they're really open and they receive, then they bring out, then I can really feel their true essence to know what to replace it with, or what patterns to transmute through sound or light. So it's also that's why I feel that it's a very interactive process.
So it's a partnership.
It's a partnership. It's a collaboration.
Yeah. So the person has to work.
They are participating equally with me.
That's interesting. So is there more that you do that you want to share with us?
Well,
I mean, you've got such a rich.
so much that I feel like there are elements that I have perhaps left out of this story. But one, it's slightly related to this. I am a writer of fiction, and so I'm working on a novel that incorporates these philosophies and patterns and frequencies, and I won't say more about that right now because y'all can see it on my blog. There are excerpts and you can read about it, but one thing I'll say is that in this novel there's a metaphysical university where some of these techniques are, so that it becomes more in the mainstream, you know, because I feel like through fiction we integrate and learn a lot about ourselves and the world in which we live. And so to normalize these things through writing a novel seems to me a good way to get it out there.
Well, you've certainly had a whole lot of experiences that will support that novel. And being an avid reader myself, I totally get it. And I just want to throw in real quick that not only do we have the blog on the main website, www.mywindsofchange.com, but that you have membership services that if they join your membership, they will also get to see your own personal blog, which will include excerpts from this novel, correct?
And it will, correct. And it will also, if you'd really like to feel into like a little taste, a demonstration of the kind of work that I do, on my audio files in my blog, I infuse my voice. It's almost like you're getting a frequency activation just by listening to these audio recordings if you're open to receiving it. And I also have guided meditations that I've recorded. They're just maybe short 10 to 15 minute meditations for specific emotional situations or just whatever I feel guided to bring through. And some of those do include the language that I spoke about earlier with the different toning and rhythmic patterns. So lots of ways to connect with
Right.
me.
So before I go to our next question, I want to make sure that you have shared all that you want to share about your journey and what led you to doing the work that you do. So is there any more there that you want to share?
At the moment, I feel like I've shared most of the pertinent points, but I'm always open. If you have questions about anything that I've shared, or if there's anything that you'd like me to elaborate on, then feel free to write to me, and I would be happy to get back to you on that.
And they could do that on the website.
And you can do that on the website.
Okay. So moving on to the next question. So, I mean, we as a group have a vision, a mission, and a vision statement. Do you have one that's a little more specific to you, a mission statement that's more about what you are doing with your specific work, and or a vision?
Well, my vision and mission is very complementary to what we as a group have collectively felt into for, and as a another component of that, I feel that bringing joy, spreading unconditional joy through my work, and empowering others to recognize that enthusiasm within themselves, like what do they feel expresses their most authentic self, and to really embrace it with self-love and compassion, and to feel when they are connected to their heart space and all that is, that that sense of playfulness and inner peace together as a combination.
So is there maybe another story that you'd like to share, or that can demonstrate what it is that you do more fully, or anything else you'd like to share with us?
Hmm.
Or you can use me and provide a demonstration from Andy's
I think I,
experience.
I feel like that would require a separate session, because this interview, and in order for you to really feel into it, it would be more focused, if because it's an involved process. So we start the session by talking, do a brief consultation, and we set an intention for the session to where to direct the energies, and then we just let them flow, and it's very stream of conscious. And sometimes I've worked with all different kinds of people over the last 3 years or so, and most of them seem to come with either um, relationship with dynamics that they would like to clear, or just anxiety or depression, or if they feel that they have just something within themselves that they'd like to bring more light, bring themselves back into the light of their own love. And those seem to be the themes. And um, people either talk with me during our session, so they tell me what they're feeling as I'm running the energies, and I always really enjoy that dialogue exchange, because it'll actually, when they talk during the sessions, it does allow me to tap in fully. But sometimes they've just preferred to have an internal meditative experience, and that's fine too. And then they just let me know afterwards what came through. And a lot of times they've said that the energies, they'll start feeling them strongly during their dream time over the next few days or weeks after the session. So it's what they can receive on all aspects of their multidimensional being.
So do you have an ideal client?
Ooh, an ideal. Well, I would say that my ideal client would be someone who strives to be the most ideal version of themselves, who expands their consciousness, and who feels open and receptive, and just those they can be anywhere from in all walks of life, really.
Do you
It's,
work with children?
I have not worked with children extensively, only a few times, and usually in both of those times the energy sessions were much shorter, only about 10 or 15 minutes, because they were so, I feel like maybe they're so open that having a longer session might be kind of overwhelming. But I have worked with mothers, a few pregnant women, and I've been able to feel, and so I've worked with their children through them, but not directly, if that makes sense.
Yes, it
And
does.
yeah, and I have worked with animals a little bit. I would not say that that's my primary gift, but I've done Reiki on dogs, and cats are very open to it, and even a horse. One time I was invited to. That was an interesting experience.
Would you be willing to share a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. So one of my mentors here, where I'm living currently, she teaches a psychic intuitive development class and also a crystal class, and that's another person that really helped me to strengthen my already innate connection to crystals. And so anyway, so she contacted me one day and said, I have a friend who would love for me to do a mediumship reading on her horse. And I thought it would be a great idea for you to come and do a Reiki session along with that. And so I thought, oh, okay, why not? And so we
This is
drove
a little new.
real new. So, it was about a 2-hour drive from where I live. And we were talking about it the whole time. And I was feeling like, well, I'll just do the Reiki the same way that I would on a person. And she's a jeweler, so she had a crystal bracelet combination to support. And of course, I had what did I bring with me that time? It was I like a smoky quartz, or a really big hunk of raw rose quartz. I just felt that, and then some other. And so I felt geared up and prepared. And so we got out of the car, and I could immediately feel the energy of this horse surrounding me. And it was like an enveloping fog, and billowy. And the woman, the owner of the horse, she said she could feel my energy from like 2 feet away. And I could sense that she was a little bit afraid of me. I'm not really sure why, but I think it was maybe just the combination of the two of us, my friend and I together. Anyway, so the horse, he loved the Reiki. He was really receptive. He was chewing his cookies while I had my hand on his third eye and back of his neck. And he was just really into it. And it was a beautiful experience. And, but then, um, the family expected instant gratification, and that the neuropathy would disappear completely after one Reiki session.
So unrealistic expectations.
Unrealistic. And that's another point to bring up, is that these energy sessions, for some people, whatever it is that they've come with might go away after one session. But usually I find that there are many layers. And so it takes often like a regular pattern of sessions to really make a lasting imprint. So.
Well, that makes sense, because it didn't happen instantly. Whatever
Right.
the
It happened, and whatever it is that as we created the pattern, it didn't happen instantly. So it wouldn't necessarily clear or activate differently instantly.
But it might. There's always
It
that.
might. It's always a possibility that it might, and it has for me. Because I'm also very receptive when I receive sessions from people or listen to this sound healing, I can immediately feel my own energy rewiring. And a lot of times it sticks for me. So yeah, it's possible.
I noticed when I work, it's sort of like stretching a rubber band or stretching something. It never goes back exactly the way it was once you stretch it. Or a balloon, you try to blow up a balloon and you stretch it and it never goes back once you put a little bit of air in it. But the more you add to it, the easier it is to hold that energy pattern, the more you do it and to do what it's supposed to do. So sometimes it just takes a while to really set in that new pattern, even if the old pattern jumps back in
Right.
for a little bit. It never goes back to, it never goes back to the way it was, but you keep adding on to it and eventually it will hold and set itself. So
It will, absolutely. And that's one reason why being patient with oneself and having deep compassionate acknowledgement for the self is so important in doing this work for me.
Makes sense.
So
Well, go ahead.
I was just reflecting and
So I don't think I have any more questions. Do you have any more questions, Sandy?
I don't think so, but having experienced several different things, just being a friend with Jonté for several years now, it's we can just be standing there and she'll pull out a crystal and start telling me what it says, and being around just her energy, I've experienced a lot of what she does, and I've heard her tone, and we've taken classes together. And the first time I ever met her, we were doing a Reiki session. I came in late and she was already doing Reiki on someone, and I joined in. And so we just sort of flowed together and worked together. And then I met her and found out who she was and how she, it was a wonderful experience. So that's how I first met you, was doing, just jumping in and helping you do a Reiki session.
I remember that experience.
And so it's having experience working with you, as well as being one of your clients and letting you do your thing, and hearing your meditations and being around you when you meditate, and hearing the toning and the music and the crystals is just it's a wonderful thing. And I know you incorporate it in your everyday life, and what you do, just walking around is what your presence just exudes a different energy pattern, and just being around you is just changes, just your beingness changes everything if someone's around you and their energy. So having a full session with you, I know, is just a quite remarkable thing. And I would highly recommend anyone to come see you and shift whatever it is that they need to shifting.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you.
Helping changing people's frequency, and it is a quite a unique experience.
I would think so. Now, of course, I've not ever met Jonté in person.
Yet.
We met through a meditation group that we both participate in. But the first thing I was very drawn to Jonté myself, and a lot of it really is all that joyful energy that you just exude. So I think just by being in your presence, even in an online way, help with shifting my energy to we all get caught up in our habit patterns. And so it certainly helped me shift out of some of those just by being with, interacting with you. So I would think that even those people who maybe are not ready to have a session, if they just enjoyed you on our podcasts or on your membership services so that they could hear your podcasts and your toning and enjoy your the information through your fictional novel, would certainly be a gift to anybody who chooses to do that, at least based on my experience. So with that in mind, would you like to share any of your, obviously www.mywindsofchange.com, which is kind of like the umbrella organization. And you have a membership services subscription as part of that. Also, and of course, you'll be participating in the Wavelengths group on Facebook.
In the Wavelengths group on Facebook. So I'll go live and do talks and, just talk about the upcoming events on the website. And so that's one way to contact me, is through the Facebook group.
And do you have an email yet correlated with all this?
I do have an email on I have my email on the website, and you can always, and that's when you join my subscription service, then you'll see that contact information.
And of course, they can always contact you through the main website on the contact page.
On the contact page.
Just to make sure they put your name in the subject line.
Right.
That we know it's for you.
Yes.
All right. So is there anything else that is important to share?
Well, I think that this feels like a peaceful completion to this particular discussion, but there will always be more to share because we are infinite, multi-dimensional beings. So in this moment, I send all of you much appreciation and joy. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, in closing, we've just finished interviewing Jonté Bouchard, who is one of the 3 founding members of the Wavelengths and Wavelength Connections, the blog, all at www.mywindsofchange.com. Jonté is a frequency activator, which basically means she uses multiple levels of energy and sound dynamics to facilitate people shifting into their happier, more balanced, more authentic selves. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, we are the Wavelengths.
We hope you have enjoyed our conversation with Jonté. Jonté can be reached at the website www.mywindsofchange.com, email jontébouchard@gmail.com, Facebook, The Wavelengths, and YouTube, The Wavelengths. Please take a moment to visualize our planet Earth bathed in white light. Everything within, on, and surrounding the planet filled with this white light, and all energies in whatever form moving into and staying balanced for the highest good of all concerned.